everybody. It's Kevin Knessa coming to you live from the newsroom of The Observer and TheObserver.com on this, the 7th day of January in the year 2025. Sure, glad you joined us today, and no matter where it is you are in the country. And as you do each and every Tuesday, you welcome me into your home so that I can bring you this week's news. But this is going to be one of those rare occasions where we don't have as much in the actual newspaper because yesterday a whole bunch of things happened that we need to get to right away, including this. This is the first thing that I need to talk to you about. If you hadn't heard it yet, Rich Konopka, who had been serving for about 10 years as the 2nd Ward Councilman in the town of Kearny, up and resigned last night at the council meeting. Now, I was a couple minutes behind, so I didn't actually get to see his resignation, so I had to speak to a bunch of people, and they told me that after the entrance, because it was the annual reorganization meeting last night, that after the entrance, they had the national anthem and prayer from Deacon John Sarnes and things of that nature. Rich asked to be recognized out of order because normally there's an agenda, and it was kind of surprising that he did that. And he said, I've been on this council for 10 years, and from what I'm told, and I want to be heard. And so the mayor yielded the floor to him, and he basically took to the mic and said that he was going to resign and that he was, I believe, tired of what was going on at the town hall chambers for the most part. Now, the question that I asked a lot of the people was, did it seem like people in the chambers were aware that this was coming? And the answer to that was unequivocally no. It seemed like everybody in those chambers yesterday were taken off guard by the fact that Rich decided to resign his seat. And while I say I am as much taken off guard by his resignation, I'm also not surprised, because there were certain times where it was pretty clear he was getting tired of this, and he was getting frustrated and fed up with some of the things that were going on, even though in certain cases he was part of it. You can't take away that reality in this situation here, that he did have some to do with what the consternation was, I guess, over the last 18 months or so, or however long it's been. So he got up and he walked out and he left the chambers, and that left something very interesting. That leaves a town council that is now equally divided 4-4. At least along the voting lines that we've seen over the last couple of months. It was 6-3 at one point now with Fred Steves on the council, and apparently in the camp of Mayor Doyle's, that leaves a 4-4 split, which is going to perhaps at times be a pretty big challenge to get certain things through, unless people are willing to negotiate a little bit more. So we may see some more of that. I don't know. We may see more fighting. We may see less fighting. It's anybody's guess as to what's going to happen. But what will probably turn out to be the first big argument or situation that they've got to deal with is who replaces Rich Konopka. Now, the process goes like this. I had to look into it. I was confused a little bit because this has happened so many times in the last couple of years. What will happen is the county committee will have to get together and get to do they'll have to choose 3 candidates. One of the 3 will then be chosen to go up for a vote. More than likely, depending on who it is, I cannot see anybody who would be a consensus choice at a 4-4 vote, or that wouldn't be in a 4-4 vote. There are some names that are out there, and people have suggested to me that perhaps former 2nd Ward Councilman Peter Santana might want to consider getting back onto the council. He doesn't have the votes, and I don't think there's really going to be many people who will given the climate that we're in right now. But I can pretty much say with certainty that I don't think Peter Santana would be able to get the necessary majority of the votes in order to be placed and seated back on the council. With that said, then that opens up an issue, because they will have to propose the other two names to go up for a vote, and presuming that those two end up in a 4-4 deadlock, which is basically a defeat, a tie is as good as a defeat, then it's unclear what the law is. But it does seem like there are going to be two options if that does in fact happen. The first option would be that the mayor could leave the seat vacant until the next election, which is this year. Rich was up for re-election this year, and it could be left that way. The other option is, from what we understand, is that the mayor could appoint the person who she wishes to see take that seat in the second ward. Though we're still trying to get the full details on that. That would seem like the more likely option. I have heard a few names tossed about as potential replacements who she would decide to appoint if that person were not to get the necessary votes during the confirmation process. But I don't want to get into that now, because I want to make sure that all of that is squared away. And when we know for sure, we will let you know. But they do have 2 weeks or 15 days that the county committee has to get together and come up with a list of 3 names, and then choose one to put on the agenda to vote for. And then if that doesn't work, it'll happen 2 more times, and then we get into the doomsday scenario where it's possible that the mayor will get to choose who it is if there aren't enough people to vote in favor of one or the other candidates, and then we'll see from there. So a lot of unknowns in the coming weeks, but it will certainly, let's put it this way, be interesting and be very exciting, I guess, depending on how you look at it. But I was very surprised. Though I was not shocked, I was still surprised that Rich did what he did last night. He served 10 years on that council. And no matter how things ended, you cannot take away from the reality that he did do a lot of things nicely and well on the council during those 10 years when he first joined the council at the encouragement of Mayor Santos 10 years ago. And he was very dedicated to recreation programs in the town of Kearny, and he coached a long time. He did a whole bunch of things, and he was very, very dedicated to the youth of the town of Kearny. And I knew him on a personal level, and for the most part, always got along with him very, very well. And I certainly wish him luck, whatever it is that he decides that he's going to do after now. So we'll see what happens, but it will be interesting to say the least. And as soon as we learn more, we'll let you know. And I think, as I saw in the chat room, Melanie said the meeting is now posted online. I wish I had it earlier to show you, but I'm going to have an audio clip that I'm going to play. But I would have liked to have had the clip of Rich walking out. So I'll get that for you next week so you can see it next week. Or you can look at kearnynj.org and check that out at your own convenience. Now, this is the next part. At the meeting last night, at this reorganization meeting, all of the members of the council had an opportunity to speak. You know, it's like the state of the town address that the mayor gives at the end, and all of the members of the council speak. So first, Councilwoman DeCastro spoke, and then Councilman Zapata spoke, and Councilman Solano spoke. Then we get to Councilwoman Eileen Eckel, who gave one of the single most bizarre speeches I have ever heard in the 40 years that I've lived in this town and have sort of paid attention to what is going on in the local world of politics. I'm still not sure who her audience was when she spoke, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to play it. And what I'll probably do is, during the course of the speech, I'm going to stop it occasionally to make some comments. And if anybody in the chat room wants to ask any questions, I'll do my best to answer. And if you have any comments that you, or perhaps you might know the answer to some of these things that we're not so sure about, you let us know in the comment section, and we'll certainly talk about it here. But it was a very interesting speech that she acknowledged wasn't what she was planning on saying had Rich Konopka not resigned. So it leads the mind to speculate that she was going to say something completely different and perhaps more controversial or more consequential when she thought she was in the majority voting bloc, and then came to the realization she wasn't anymore. So without any further ado, here is the audio from that, and I'm going to interrupt occasionally for some comments, and if you guys have any questions, certainly throw them out there. So here it is. This is from last night, Councilwoman Eileen Eckel speaking at the Kearny Council meeting.
Thank you, Councilman Solano. Councilwoman Eckel.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I had a very different speech prepared tonight, which if you know me, you probably aren't surprised to hear that. But I would like to just say good evening, everyone. And, you know, this is the one time a year where we have a full house. And so, you know, it's very tempting as an elected official to really talk a lot because you have an audience. And many times we sit here twice a month, and oftentimes there's no one here except the people that have to be here and one or two residents who come back time after time to try and present views and opinions and gather information for the community. So it's very tempting to take your time. But I'm going to really just change what I was going to say tonight. Firstly, the reason you're here, most of you are here, is because you're being sworn in to some kind of position on a board and maybe not realizing even what that is. For some of you, and I'm looking out into the audience now and I realize that there's a lot of frequent flyers here, and that's a wonderful thing because you've been involved for years and you're still involved and you still want to be involved, and that's what makes our town viable. That's what makes us be able to float, right? But it's awfully nice to see some new faces. It's awfully nice to see some fresh faces, people that now maybe have the time that didn't have the time prior to this to get involved, and that's really important. The reason you're here tonight is because you're being named, right? So it's a structure. It's a governmental thing, right? We have to have these meetings because we have to appoint you to positions. We ask you if you're willing. You say yes, and then we vote on you, and you get to have that spot for a year or two, or in some cases, five years. And it's a commitment. It's a sacrifice. It's a gift to your community, not paid. And those of you that do get some kind of little stipend, very tiny little stipend, by the way, if you do, it in no way, you don't do it for that reason. You never do it for that reason. And I'm going to just turn here because this is kind of where I go off the rails a little bit, I guess, based on some of the things that happened tonight. So our past and our future is joined by the present, right? That's how we get there. Our history, the things we have to honor, the things we know, the things we've experienced or we've been told are the things that bring us to a certain point. And then we're here and we're thinking about the future, right? What are we going to do next? What's our vision? What's our goal? And every year we hear the same goals. We hear the same visions from the same people, different faces, very similar, right? Takes about an hour and a half. And then we have a list of all the things we've done. And then there's a list of all the things we want to do. And it works for the most part, right? Because we work together to make it work. Sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't work, the cost of that the physical, emotional cost of that comes out of us. It comes out of the framework that makes this work or not work. The ability to work together, honestly, truthfully work together, not just say the words, but actually do it. It takes a different kind of person to recognize that with power can come an abuse of power. With celebrity can come an inflated ego.
This was the first time I was a little bit confused. Using the term abuse of power is a very serious thing to say. And what she didn't clarify was what she meant by that. whether she's of the belief that there's been an abuse of power somewhere, or whether she expects that it's going to happen at some point, or whatever the case may be. I find when you hear that type of accusation levied, that there abuse of power, whatever it is, that's a very difficult thing to say, but you got to back it up with something. But I have not heard anything, at least to this point, that backs that notion up.
All of those things can happen to all of us. But when you're in a position where you've been entrusted by the people in your community to speak for them or to represent them, you have to do it with the utmost integrity every single time. And if you don't, and you lose sight of what that is, things crumble because they can't, it's not like a puzzle where you take a few pieces out and it still works. If you have a puzzle and you take a few pieces out and you look at it, you can't tell what it was supposed to be. We're more than just a puzzle. We're pieces of the community. You're pieces of the community. You have to participate, I know you do, but you also have to pay attention. Listen to what you're being told and look to see if it's the truth. And if it's not, say something.
All right, now this is the first time where I'm kind of getting a little bit irritated. Listen for the truth, and if it's not the truth, say something or ask somebody. And once again, there is no specific mention of what she is referring to. But she is basically saying that there are people out there who are not telling you the truth. And I'm going to get into something where she didn't tell the truth, and yet is levying these accusations on other people. Let me continue this.
You have to. And if you don't, you wind up with something that's not real. There's a cost. We saw that cost tonight. The integrity there, the hard work. I made a list quickly, not about the stuff we've accomplished as a group, but looking around this table individually as people. What do they do? What have they done? Not as council. Mr. Zapata, Mr. Councilman, I wrote immediately, newly married, Tiffany, right? Newly married. What a wonderful thing, right? And everything that happens as a result of being a newly married person carries into this building, carries into this situation, because he's thinking of his future, his life, his wife, his love, all the things he talked about, his education. That's him as an individual, as a human being, right? Councilman Solano, honored by the Peruvian community, stepping up in a big way into a leadership role that maybe a year ago he didn't think he would have or be able to do. Or maybe he did and just was uncertain. Emerging, strong. I have Councilman Konopka on here, all in. That's all I can write about him. All in as a coach. Every game for his son. It's all he talked about. He would go into the school and talk about the teachers. He would, all of that, all in 100% and fiercely supportive of his community and his family. Fiercely, so fiercely supportive of it that it consumed him in a way that resulted in his now maybe not feeling like he can do it.
You notice what is going on here? You'd have to kind of see the room to understand this. And that is that she is skipping around the room. She passed over Councilwoman Mary Trine de Castro, started with Councilman Zapata, then went on to Dennis Solano, and then to Rich Konopka, because she was going to cite the allies that she had on the council and not the council as a whole. It is so blatant that this is what was going on here. And you'll see that as it continues when she mentions the next two people and then how she circles back.
Because it's that personal, and that's how strongly he feels about what's right and what's true. I just had me in here. This is my 20th year on this council. This is starting my 20th year on this council. And a lot have been accomplished. I look at those pictures on the back wall and I see the former mayors There were two. Whether you like it or not, there were two.
I'd like to just make a clarification here. There are quite a few more than just two former mayor's pictures on the back wall there. What she was doing there was pointing at Peter Santana, the never elected former mayor whose picture went up on the wall. Rightfully so, because Therese Jones's picture is up on the wall right behind the mayor's desk in Town Hall, and Al Santos. But she couldn't help. She had to remind everybody that that picture was up there. She had to go there. She just had to remind everybody that whether we liked it or not, he's a former mayor, even though not once did he win a mayoral election. In fact, he was only in one and he lost it. Came in third out of three candidates. But don't you dare forget that he was the mayor, whether you like it or not, because Eileen said so.
And so accept the history, accept the truth. It just is what it is. You don't have to deny it. You don't have to dislike it. You just have to accept what it is and learn from it.
Accept the truth and learn from it. That is the truth. That is certainly the truth. And then I would just simply look at that and say, if that were the case, then why did you deny not knowing what happened to Juan Barroso in October of 2023? Simple question. If the truth is so important to you, why did you deny not knowing what happened that day when that former mayor who's up on the wall at your demand berated him in front of children at the parade in 2023? How come you denied that? And then for months, now there's pictures proving you were there. So don't get selectively outraged by what's told truthfully and what's not truthful, when you yourself are certainly selective about what you tell the truth about. Let's continue.
Experience there that we have to know has value. Fred, new challenges and new opportunities on the council that maybe a few years ago you never thought you would have. And at the age we're at, let's just say it, right? To start something new, it's a challenge. It's valuable. People are counting on you to do that, to show up, to be there. And I know you will, right? You will. You have to. Jerry, I put the maestro in quotation marks, who works at Stevens and continues to make music affect people, young people. You need to know that in the world today, there is music everywhere if you look for it. And you know that's true. I look at Councilman Theodoropoulos, and I can say his name because I've known him his whole life, and I look at how he took on the challenge of that senior picnic this year and against all odds made that work. Against all odds made that work. And dealing with his own personal issues, which we won't go into, but I'm telling you, there is a cost for every single thing that each one of us does, all in hard as we can. We need your help. We need your help, not just to listen to the sound bites or to the story that's told. Find out if it's true. And how are you going to find out? Ask. Just ask. Ask me.
Just ask. Just ask. She's going to tell you. She's going to tell you. Unless it's something she doesn't want you to know about, then she's not going to tell you about it. That's just the bottom line, because that's what happened in this case. Going back, I feel like I've been talking about this for a year, probably because I have, but what did you know about what happened that day? Oh, I don't know. I wasn't there. Yeah, you were. Yeah, you were. But lecture everybody else about it.
I'll tell you the truth, whether you like it or not. Maybe it's just my truth. And ask somebody else. There has to be a way to make this better than what it is. Not just a list of accomplishments every year and how much money we've spent. Although I will tell you that hearing blanket coverage of all the things you want to give to everybody is a very different thing than hearing a list one by one of the things that actually have been accomplished and how we got here. Those parks that we have now, those big buildings that we have now, they didn't happen yesterday. They didn't happen this year or last year or the year before that. It's been 20 years for some of those things to actually happen because we had to find the money. We had to understand how it was going to be able to be accomplished and who was going to do it. So nothing happens overnight, and not one person in this room makes it happen. Not one person. All of us, sometimes against each other, but in the end, the hundreds and hundreds of resolutions that get passed by this council, whether we like each other or not, get done for the benefit of the town of Kearny. So we got to grow up and start to figure out what's valuable here. The man who left here, the sacrifice, why? I wrote Carol, the mayor's on here too, you're not skipped. Taking on a new career in the midst of the responsibilities of being the mayor. Tremendous, it's a lot of work. And at a certain point in life where you wonder, why would I do all that? Why would I do that? And I have Mary Treen on here too. Brand new job in the county, right? Wonderful, good opportunity, right?
I mean, was that if you're going through bullet by bullet trying to give compliments for everybody, and the best you can come up with is you took on a new career at your age, and you took a job in the county, are you kidding? Like, she is basically slamming them in the middle of trying to praise them. You just took a county job, so let me announce it to the world. Okay, everybody knows now, Eileen. Everybody knows now. But don't mask it as trying to be kind. That was vicious. Absolutely vicious.
So we all have different things that we do outside this chambers. We all have to understand the sacrifice that it is, how much we appreciate the hard work of every single person in here. I look at Mike Neglia, I look at the employees that work for the town, the professionals, and Bruno. I look at David Silva. He's on call all the time, answer any phone call all the time. Our administrator, our chiefs of the departments, department heads, they make it happen. We don't make it happen. They do. They do. And they can't be confused about whose side they're on. We're supposed to be on your side. All of us. All of us. I'm sorry I'm ranting. I do apologize. Wasn't what I intended to say. I hope that between all of us, with, by the way, the time and talent that we have and we can offer this town, we should be able to do better. We're all smart, all of us, every one of us sitting here. Each one of us has different experience. Each one of us has a different goal, maybe. But there's no reason in the world why a group of people that's dedicated and willing to work together and donate their time basically to this, which I wonder sometimes why, right? Because it's a lot. There has to be a better way. So I hope that that's what's going to happen in the next few months. And the opportunistic people that feel like they can grab something, be careful what you wish for. Because what you think you're grabbing for may not really be real at all.
It's the third time I've watched through this, and I still don't even know where to begin or how to unravel that. I don't know who these opportunistic people are she's talking about. I mean, if you go and you list bullet points about all the great things that people are doing and then say, you know, it costs us or we're volunteering our time, we don't get paid to do this. I mean, what are you doing it for then? Resign, retire, go somewhere else. I just don't even know. I don't even know where to start. But that was what happened last night at that meeting, and it was honestly. I mean this when I say this. The first Kearny Council meeting I went to was 1992, January of 1992. I've never seen anything before that or since like that. And if you ask me what the purpose was, I couldn't tell you. I think if you ask anybody else what that was, whether they'd be able to tell you what it was all about, or was it a matter of now that she's no longer in the majority vote block, that I better cover my ass? I don't know. I mean, there's so many possibilities here. Only she knows. And I don't think she's ever going to try to find a way to justify anything of what she said last night, other than the reality that it was completely off the wall. I mean, that was incredibly wild. Carol Manley says it here. If Eileen is that unhappy, she needs to be next to resign. Maybe that's the solution. If what happened to Rich was so bad that it's affecting her too, apparently, follow suit. Is that what you're going to do? Probably not. But maybe that is the best way to handle it, if it's so bad, if it's that bad. And I cannot believe that on the day that she fell out of the majority, she would take this type of stance. It just blows my mind. It really, really does. And I hope and I pray that Mayor Doyle is ready to really stick it back, because no matter what, those words were jabs at her. And now that Eileen is no longer in the majority, she's basically 1 vote out of 8. Maybe she can finally be held accountable for these remarks and all the other stuff, and making it seem like she's never told a lie, when you and I know very, very clearly she certainly has. It is 2 minutes after 2. Kevin Canessa here with you on the Observer Live. There's a whole bunch of people in the chat room who I didn't get to acknowledge today. We say hello first to Michelle Vartan, who is here with us. Marcelo Haranga is here. North Arlington Mayor Dan Pronti is here. Megan Doyle Decker is here. Megan, good to see you. Megan, the daughter, of course, of our mayor. Luz Rozo is here. Carol Manley, Loretta Cummings, Ruth Ann Cataffe, good to see you. Larry Hanlon, and of course Lisa is here as well. Kenny Lindenfelser Sr., former mayor of Kearny, is here with us. Melanie Ryan, Louis Soto, Pat Locasto, and Lorraine Swick Sanfilippo. And anybody I might have missed, I apologize to you for that. And I do realize that I went a little bit longer than usual today, and there were 2 topics only really that we covered. But when it was so bizarre, it was just so bizarre the way that meeting panned out last night, I had no other choice but to do this. There are a couple of things in the paper this week that I want to just kind of point out to you, if I can. Ruth King is a teacher at the Hudson Arts and Sciences Charter School, and a couple of weeks ago she invited me over because the community-oriented police unit was putting on a Grinch display and assembly at the school, and it turned out to be tremendous with a lot of lessons learned. And in that picture there, you see Ruth with her son Sean. Sean is one of the officers in the police department. He's not a member of the COP unit, but since his mother works at the school, he's at the school a lot, and he was there on his own time. Ryan Brady, also in the picture there, is a member of the COP unit. He's along with Court Montanino, who is not a member of the unit, but was there also on his own time. And Ruth pulled together with the COP unit and Adriano Martz a tremendous assembly to end 2024, so I hope you'll check that out. And this is important as well, because the Archdiocese of Newark has the biggest plot of land in North Arlington, and it is tax exempt. But just because it is tax exempt does not mean they are not socially responsible partners. They are. Last year, 1 year ago, just around this day, they donated $80,000 to the borough of North Arlington, where 2 Harley-Davidson motorcycles were to be purchased. And lo and behold, you see it right here, Mayor Pronti, if he's still in the chat room, these 2 Harleys were delivered last week. They're looking incredibly beautiful, and they're going to join the fleet of the North Arlington Police Department. It'll be great for funerals and processions, but also regular traffic enforcement and parades and anything else you can think of, where a motorcycle will make getting from point A to B to C to D so much easier. And for people who say religious organizations get away with murder because they don't pay taxes, the truth of the matter is the Archdiocese of Newark does not have to make donations like this, but they do, because they do it right. Cardinal Tobin has always done it right. The cemetery's office has always done it right. And that's what makes the relationship between the borough of North Arlington and the Archdiocese of Newark such a special relationship, where you have that enormous piece of land, which I'm sure Dan Pronti would love to be able to tax, but he can't because it's a nonprofit organization. So, in lieu of that, this is what you get: 2 fully funded motorcycles that will make life so much better and so much easier to handle things in the North Arlington Police Department. So I wanted to make sure you all got a chance to see that today as well. Don't forget to check out the classifieds. We've got 2 pages of those. And there is a lot more that we'll get to in the coming weeks. There's so many things to go over, including reorganizations in some of the other towns, including North Arlington and Belleville. And we will get to all that in the coming weeks. Just bear with us as we get caught up with the new year. Just kind of snuck up upon us, but here we are at any rate. So we'll see what happens with this situation, and we'll report back to you once we know anything, if we can find anything out. I don't know, but we'll see what happens there. So thank you again for joining us today, and that's going to do it. From the newsroom of The Observer and TheObserver.com, it's Kevin Canessa. We're signing off for now, and we hope to see you back here again very, very soon. Enjoy the rest of your Tuesdays, everybody. Take care, and thanks again. Bye-bye.